Good afternoon, everyone. We will get started on our Monday, April 10th, 2023 Hamblen County Legislative Body Committee meetings. I'll remind commissioners, please, to turn on your mics and please use your mic when you're addressing. So to remind everyone once again, let's try to use the proper when the chairman has the floor. If you need to speak, please go through that chairman of that committee. Please, let's try to do that. Whoever the committee is, you address that chairman before you join in. If we have a speaker, we'll allow the speaker to speak and take discussion. But after we have a motion on the floor, a motion, a second, and then we'll discuss before vote. Are we ready? We'll call on Chairman Tim Horner, the Justice Center Public Safety Committee. You're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll call the Justice Center Public Safety Committee to order. If there's anyone wishing to address the committee, you may do so at this time.
Linda Noe, Joe Stevens Road. You have yet another change order, another 100,000 plus. We're about halfway in terms of total spending on the contract. Of course, there was other money as well, but if you just base on a percentage of the contract. And I keep wondering, where is the contract attorney who is talking to her? When are they talking to her, and what are they finding out? Not that I expect an answer. We don't give answers, we just sit there. But you could give an answer if you wanted to. Who is talking to that contract attorney? Is anybody talking to her? Has she billed anything? Another 100,000, thanks.
Anyone else?
My name is Gwen Holden. I live at 8150 West Point Drive. We're going to spend another $100,000 on this jail, and already up to almost $104 million. And this is for crooks. This ain't for honest people, not for people that don't break the law. All we ask is get our roads fixed, and we can't even get our roads fixed. Maybe I need to break the law so I can get my road fixed. I don't know. I'm just looking for a solution. How much more money are we going to spend for crooks that break the law? Then not only that, we have to pay for their dental insurance, their food. If they get sick, they go to the hospital. How much more do you think taxpayers can stand? Well, I'm tired of it. And I'm on a fixed income. I'm really tired of it. And I've worked all my life. Come on, get real. Money is not growing on trees, especially today. And especially not to give to crooks that break the law.
Anyone else? If not, there is no old business. New business, 4A, the Justice Center project update. Tony Pettit, Burwell.
Good afternoon. Updates are getting easier because you can see from here what's going on. This is the top of the columns. It'd be about 8 foot taller than that, and we reach our top height on it. There'll be a 8 foot parapet on some areas of it to hide mechanical stuff. But you go up, you can see sails are set. I think most of you toured last week. So you kind of get a feel of the lay of the land there. They're scheduled to set the second floor in this month. They've got the shear walls going up. You can kind of see them in the forms. And they're working on that next level for the steel. So they're working, when weather allows, they're working 6 days a week to try to get the schedule on board. Currently, that schedule is May of 2024. Right now, as of the billing for March, they were 43% complete. They're beginning to do some site retaining walls and where the chiller building is. One of the things we want to talk about soon are, do we want to add a set of steps down from a truck court down to those chillers to help with maintenance? And we'll go over that in a future meeting here and propose it. It's somewhere less than $40,000 to put those steps in. That sounds like an expensive set of steps, but over the long range of the building, you may want them for the maintenance and upkeep and just have access to those where the chiller sits and the emergency generator where the building goes. Any questions?
I have one, Mr. Pettit.
Yes.
You made the statement several months back that we had several more change orders and they would be worse as they come in. How many more do you think we've got to expect? Because I've noticed the last little bit, they all started 100,000 and go up.
Yep. There is one proposed right now we're still vetting, and it's about, again, the deep foundations and closing that out. We are still vetting that one. That one is pretty significant. Again, we've had a presentation by the contractor. The architect is reviewing it, asking questions and stuff. It comes in a notebook. And it's been, it's going back and forth between the architect and the contractor right now. This one is a pretty rugged one because it's plumbing that has to be in the job, that wasn't drawn in the job. But I really can't tell you how many more. Hopefully we'll get to the ones where we get to decide whether we want to do them or not, rather than what's in the job and needs to be done. So we keep thinking it'll slow down, but so far it hasn't. You're correct.
Would this normally have been in the drawings?
The change order that I'm fixing to present,
Yes, sir.
it should have been in the drawings. It would have been, that way we'd never seen the change order, we'd just seen an additional cost. Now, who's to say if the additional cost is the same as it is right now, but it should have been in the drawings.
Who reviews those drawings to make sure everything's there, out of curiosity?
Well, the architect does, and I do a constructability review. But this got not in the drawings. It was drains on the, it's mainly drains, roof drains and secondary drains. This is plumbing issues. And so the architect should review them, the engineer should have reviewed them, I should have reviewed them.
Is this something that the contract attorney that they had brought before the commission to hire, is this something she could have handled and it go back on the architect instead of us?
You would probably be able to get a summary course there. I don't know. We need to confer with her. Nonetheless, we have agreed between the architect and us that we would review these type of changes at the 25%, the 50%, 75% end of the job, so it don't fester all the way up. So we'll certainly do that on this one, the one we talked about last week, last month rather, that we'd review it with the architect at the 50% mark.
Has this one, as far as your knowledge, has this one been discussed with the contract attorney that
No. it
they
has
brought
not.
into play?
It has not. To my knowledge, it hasn't.
We should use whatever we bought. I mean, if we hired one, that's what we should be using.
Yes, we should. Any other questions about progress? Okay. So let's go to the change order. Change order is $106,443. And it's in request for information. They ask, you know, these are called requests for information. They track them by number, RFIs. So there's an RFI 180, and this one consists to RFI 192, RFI 202, 201, and then a 186. And basically, each one of these, we're asking about how do these drains work and get water out to the storm drain. So the first one in the amount of 41,000 is the one from the piping from the primary and secondary roof drains. The second one was the holding area floor drains. The number 44, item 40, PCO 44 is the bailiff sink sanitary sewer routing, which is no cost, but it's still the same questions. And then the RFI 202 floor drains for the rec yard areas on the upper levels, how they drain out, how they popped out. So yeah, these should have been on the drawings. I have the architect's summary here for each one of these. And drains were indicated on the documents, however, the pipe and the pipe routing were not. When PCO 41 updated drawings to show the required pipe routing, that cost was the material and labor was added to an amount of $41,178. Item 2, she says the question was asked of RFI 186 about floor drain number 2, about floor drain 2. Roof drains shown on drawings in areas C and D interior. Drawings did not show tie-ins for the drain pipe for these areas. Drawings were updated to this PCO. Cost associated with this proposal was added materials of $6,335. PCO 44. Question was asked about the sanitary sewer routing for the sink in the bailiff's break room. That was issued to clarify the contractor is noting no extra cost for that PCO, but she included it anyway since it's a drawing change. 46 was a question asked if the drains and the storm piping are required in outdoor recreation areas C and D on levels 1, 2, and 3. Drawings were updated to indicate the required drains and pipes in the rec yards in units C and D, and that cost is $48,142. That's your plumbing. So there was another PCO 47 that's $10,888, and that's adding geofoam. Geofoam is a method of backfilling against concrete walls, and that allows you to backfill against those walls without without loading those walls on a lateral force. So you're able to keep the walls as designed, because originally it was supposed to be precast. So they got this geofoam to backfill that, and it doesn't allow the wall to be pushed out. But if you backfilled it with soil. So this was the most economical way of getting this wall backfilled. It was shown a void before, and this one was $10,888 for the geofoam. And this is one that went back and forth a lot, trying to make it as economic as you could.
Mr. Petty,
Yes, sir.
could you clarify for us, some of the numbers that we have that we're looking at didn't match the numbers that you presented. And you gave us a 106, and maybe there's an update that we just have not gotten. Just for
Probably in
clarification.
Mexico. I'm sorry, I'm behind.
No, it's fine. That's fine. It may be,
Okay, all right, so this is a case in point that they always are. When I left town, it was 106. So this
Okay.
is not all the good news we wanted, but a little bit of better news. So this is, the first one was 40,193.
okay.
Okay.
All right, that lines up better,
There you go.
at least
Sorry
with the
about that.
numbers we have.
So that should total 104, 345.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you.
I do have one. So this extra, not extra, but expense for this, the money wasn't in there either.
The money wasn't in there.
So we would have had to purchase it anyway,
You would have had to pay something.
had it been in there.
Right. So, you know, the attorneys should advise us on this, but I think it would be between us, this body, and the architect. The pricing has been vetted out. The architect goes back and does a takeoff on it, thorough takeoff, and asks questions, and some of that is reflected on the difference between this one and that one. And, you know, I was there around for one where we were trying to get a credit out of a slab on grade during the geofoam stuff. So it's pretty much back and forth for a little while to vet it out. But the point is, if it had been in the drawings, bid prices would have been higher. The difference there, just to keep in mind, is it's under a competitive situation there, and while I think our contractor does an excellent job of trying to hold the cost and contain the cost, it's always better if it's under a competitive situation.
Sure. Anyone else?
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
So, Tony, let's look at 047 for a second, the void, geofoam. That was a void there before,
It was a void.
so no backfill was intended for that?
The walls were not intended to hold backfill. We started talking about backfill, and then we started talking about the foundation had to get bigger and the walls had to get thicker and more reinforcement. So,
Okay. Then I've got a question, and this is general conversation.
sure.
We've paid architect, and this, again, it's more for us. We paid the architect $5 million. New $750 or so. So we've got a lot of money invested in making sure this thing works. These engineers that should have put a piece of pipe together, they're $140 to $220 an hour. We need you to help us fight that fight.
Sure.
And I know you will, but I just want to make sure that we understand that if you show a roof drain, we paid for BIM, information on this. There should have been something showing a pipe to a pipe. Same thing on any of these drains. If you show a drain, you got to have a connection somewhere. So we really need your help to go fight the fight on this. 75% of their money that they've spent, or we spent with them, was in the design phase. It circles to roof drain details. In my opinion, it should have been caught by somebody somewhere. So just as a note, please help us.
I work
I
for
know
you. I work for this board.
I know that, and you've done a great job
I
helping
like
us.
to
but,
fight, so.
Okay, well, I do too.
Yeah.
So, I've got a problem with the change order. I know we had to approve it. I know we got to fix it somehow, but,
Right. So here's the issue, though, that this body's got to understand. If we have a change order in here that was caused by the contractor, I think we debate it with the contractor. This one right here, it wasn't shown, okay? So there's a debate about whether you should or shouldn't
right.
fight
We
the
still got to
designer.
plumb it together.
But the contractor has to proceed.
Right.
And then, if you'll notice on his backup, that plumbing contractor, it's slowed down some, but he has his standard verbiage down at the bottom of his change order request that says he's fighting inflation and he wants an acknowledgement within 7 days worth accepted. Well, it don't work with us meeting every 30 days. So you've got the contractor fighting that and holding that off, but if we don't like the change order with the designer. The designers agreed with us to meet and discuss them at certain stages so we don't hit them at the very end.
No,
Try to
7% we can meet with.
Yeah, so then the contractor has to proceed, because if you shut the job down, it's gonna cost a lot of money. So as soon as we say, contractor, you're not getting paid for this, because it's somebody else's issue, we're in trouble. Does that make sense? So,
I also want to make note that 0 days have been requested for all this additional work.
it's true, yeah.
Okay.
One other question. On 047, there was going to have to be a landing there for that, for that landing, so how could it not have anything under it?
At one time, it was a precast landing. And then we value engineered. This is a bad conversation because we didn't get anything we should have seen $6 million out of our value engineering exercises we did a year ago, okay? But inflation just beat us up to where we didn't really see that. Concrete, steel, everything we were talking about. So we had that conversation. When we value engineered though, it was less expensive to get rid of the precast stairs. And now we have steel stairs, pan-filled, like we see elsewhere in the other projects. We don't have these precast stairs coming in. So that saved us money. Unfortunately, we didn't see it because of all the inflation going on. But they missed this one, this little short stair coming out the far side next to the road. Helen Ross McNabb Center. This is where this stair is. So they just didn't reinforce that wall. So we're here, we got the foundations poured. So how's the best way to address this wall? And it was going back, instead of changing the foundations and changing the walls, it was geofoam to allow us to backfill it, engineer's blessing, and then we didn't have to reinforce the wall to keep the overtone moment of that backfill. Did that answer your question? I mean, nobody likes this, but yeah, that's what I'm trying to answer.
Anyone else?
All right, thank you.
Do I hear a motion to approve the change order?
So move.
Do I hear a second?
I'll second it.
Second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Let's raise of hands. Chairman, do raise of hands. We had a couple of no's in that, I think.
All in favor, raise your hand. All opposed, raise yours. Ayes have it.
3 no's.
Item 4C, Mosley Architects Contract Amendment.
Not,
Mayor Britt.
In your packet is a amendment to the Mosley Architect contract, and it is for the design services for the finishing the courtroom and that other office space. And it's according to the proposal is an estimated number of $80,704, and it's based on the budget that they presented us of I think it was $1.2 million roughly for the construction cost of finishing out those 2 rooms, and it's at 5.5%, which is the original contracted percentage in their original contract. If it doesn't cost 1.2, then their fee will be lower. So it's based on 5.5%.
Any questions?
Just a short one, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Mayor, this one doesn't really involve this exact agreement, but are we keeping a rolling tab of these things to go to this attorney that we have
Yes.
contract services? Because it's getting ridiculous when it's coming to this. I mean, I know that if we stop construction, what it's gonna cost us, I don't wanna pay it, but there's got to be some recourse at the end of the road, as Mr. Richardson said. when you've got a drain, you've got to have a pipe. And any engineer, architect, or anything that looked at those drawings that didn't catch that, I've got question with. I deal with those drawings every day, some very complex drawings, and if we don't catch everything, then it falls on us. It doesn't fall on the other party. So I'm hoping that we can address this with her and see. Again, like I said, I don't like paying it, but I understand that we can't stop production.
But the process is, as Tony mentioned, is once we get to the 50% point, which will be in the next month to 6 weeks, then we'll take, we've got at least 2 change orders or items on 2, maybe 3 change orders that we'll take to her to review and then take them back to the.
I hope we've got them all, because these things that should have been caught by architects and engineers should have been addressed, and that should have been in the actual bid. Because, I mean, even the person that compiled the bid, if they didn't see a drain in the drawing or a piping, they should have asked.
Yeah, I think there is an obligation under the general conditions that they're supposed to point out discrepancies like that. And then there's also some language in there that says that, you know, if you don't point it out, that you assume that it's fit for construction kind of thing. So we'll need her to help us navigate.
Any other questions? Do I hear a motion to approve the contract amendment?
So moved.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second. All in favor, raise your hand. All opposed, raise yours.
We've got two noes.
That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Chairman Horner. We'll now move to our audit committee. Chairman Bobby Hahn, you are recognized.
Call the audit committee to order. Anyone wishing to address the audit committee can come forward now. There is no old business. Under new business, the presentation of Hamblen County government audit for fiscal year ending June 30, 2022. Is Amanda Hale.
In front of you, you should have a copy of this PowerPoint presentation that I go over the results of the audit and then some fund balance information as of fiscal year ended June 30th, 2022. And I just want to say, our audit manager, Mark Priest, is here tonight. I appreciate him being here. The audit for this year was completed by the Comptroller's Office on March the 8th. And as you can see in this slide, the audit resulted in no findings for last year with an unmodified opinion, which just means that audit concluded the financial statements were presented fairly in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles. Very happy about that.
Absolutely.
On the next slide, this schedule breaks down any weaknesses or deficiencies within the financial statements or in any federal awards or grants. And again, none was noted. The next slide is just really a reiteration of the other. It's just no findings on the financial statements. And the next schedule again just says that we had no findings on federal awards or grants. And the very last page before we get into fund balance is about management responses, and there were none noted. And I just want to take a quick second here and say, as a new finance director, that I'm very appreciative of all the departments and all their help and everything that they've done, because this has truly been a group effort, and that I appreciate audit and the help that they have given me and the cooperation as our office has transitioned through some difficult times in the last few months. So I just want to take a quick second and thank them. The next few slides show our fund balance in each of our major funds. So the first one is for our general fund balance. And just for reference, our fund balance is the difference in our total assets less our liabilities and deferred inflows, like deferred property taxes. And in fiscal year 2022, our net revenues were up $2,067,000, resulting in the fund balance growing to $12,510,000, and that's up from $10,444,000 in the previous fiscal year. So our actual revenues ended up being almost $422,000 higher than estimated, and about half of that came from local tax revenue being higher than anticipated. Our expenses also ended up almost $265,000 less than what we had budgeted, and we had anticipated growing funds approximately $1,380,000. So along with our revenues being more than expected and our expenses being less than expected, that's how we grew fund balance $2,067,000 over the previous fiscal year. The next slide again is still general fund balance, but it also shows the unassigned fund balance information. So the top green line represents total fund balance, and the blue or bottom line represents the funds that are unrestricted, uncommitted, or unassigned. So basically everything that's left over after all the restricted and committed funds have been subtracted. And just as an example, last month the clerk's office came and asked for money for the new kiosk that they're going to have, and that came out of their restricted funds. So that's where offices that collect fees can have some fees assigned or committed for just their offices, and those are used out of. And then everything else is left over is the unassigned fund balance. And this unassigned fund balance available to the county is to prevent a cash flow issue, and it grew just over $965,000 over the previous year. Next slide shows our unassigned fund balance as a percentage of expenditures. Again, our total expenditures for last year were roughly $20,485,000. And as a general rule, we would like our fund balance to be at least 20 or 25% of expenditures. And as of 6/30, we were at 48%. So this is a very good indication that we have more than adequate working capital to meet our cash flow demands and can safeguard us against unanticipated expenses, or if we were unable to realize some of the revenues we expected. Next slide is for the solid waste or sanitation fund. It shows the trend balance there. Our fund balance in sanitation grew roughly $979,000 up to $3.5 million from just over $2.5 million in FY21. The majority of the revenue for sanitation comes from local property taxes and local option sales tax. We had anticipated fund balance being $3,082,000, so we were around $500,000 better than what we had projected, mostly due to lower expenses than what we had budgeted. Our total expenses were $2,691,000, and with our fund balance being just over $3.5 million, this puts our fund balance as a percentage of expenditures at 130%. So it's giving sanitation fund more than an adequate amount to offset their cash flow requirements. And then the last slide is for the highway department. The fund balance in highway is down to approximately $1,395,000, a decrease of just about $200,000 over the previous fiscal year. The majority of the revenue for the highway department comes from the state's gasoline and motor fuel tax, and last year we collected approximately $2.4 million in those taxes. We had anticipated fund balance of being $1,359,000, so our actual fund balance is very close to what we projected. Expenses were up somewhat due to a pay increase that took effect on October 1st for the highway department employees, as well as higher than anticipated fuel expense and equipment repair costs. So our total expenses were roughly $3,325,000, and with our fund balance being $1,395,000, that put our fund balance as a percentage of expenditures at roughly 42%. So that percentage was about 52% in the prior year, so it's down as well. Even though fund balance is down and there has been an increase in expenses, the ratio is still adequate to cover any unforeseen expenses that we might have.
We thank you, Ms. Hale.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Chairman, that's all I have. Oh, I'm sorry. Go.
I would just like to say thank you to Amanda for stepping up in, as she said, difficult times, and she's done a fantastic job, so thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Warner. Very, very nice.
Motion to accept.
Looking for a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
Motion, Mr. Reed, second, Mr. Harville. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? So carried. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Chairman Hahn. We will now move to our Finance Committee, and once again, Chairman Hahn, you're recognized.
Okay, we'll call our Finance Committee to order. Anyone wishing to speak may come to the podium at this time. See none, we'll move forward. Recurring business, our expenditure report. Commissioners, you'll find that in your packet. And then our monthly checks. You'll also find those in there as well and to look over at your leisure. A new business?
Chairman,
Yes.
during old business, and I'm not certain how you intended to do this, would you like to call up some discussion?
On
Old
the,
business. Yeah, we've got some
garbage
gentlemen, yes.
we can go ahead and do it now. That'll be fine. I think we did open it up last week. So under old business, we have the garbage truck purchase discussion. And it's Mr. Poole, if you'll come up and give us the rundown on that, please.
Okay, I've got quotes with regards to the fully automated truck. Looking at that option. Also, I've got Arnold Day with Worldwide truck that sells a truck cab chassis, and Michael Salomon with municipal equipment, and then he sells the part on the back that does lifts the cart, dumps it, and puts it back down on the ground. So they have a lot more details. Yes, sir. You like for those guys to come up here and share with you what their thoughts would be on this?
Would you repeat that? I'm sorry.
Got a couple of guys that can talk about this truck and the advantages of it versus a rear loading truck like we're using now, if you'd like to hear from them.
Certainly would, if we could, please.
Y'all come up here. The quote is almost $2,000. We're looking at a rear loading truck costing $240, so obviously $162,000 difference. And I'll let y'all.
Arnold Dam with Worldwide Equipment. I represent the chassis side of the truck. If you have any questions on what the chassis may need from you guys. What it is, we put together a spec we went actually with George Lawson on a route. I saw the train had, so by going off of it, we went in and I spec'd the chassis on what I thought the gear ratio would need to be, transmission, engine, to what best would suit the needs that you have here in Hamblen County on it. Chassis side is actually the simple side of the truck. The body side is a little more difficult. That's probably where you guys will have the most questions at, but it will be a Mack chassis, LR, 42 single axle chassis.
Just for clarification, so you proposed the type of chassis that we need is what you're saying?
Yes, sir.
You went out there and
Yes,
I guess it's not going to be identified to one area or something like that, though, correct? It'll be, yeah. Thank you. Sorry, Chairman, I didn't go
No,
through
that's
you.
fine.
I
Thank
didn't
you.
go through you. Chairman.
Yes, Mr. Richardson.
On this proposal here, it says sourced good. What does that mean?
Source web?
Well, it says sourced good.
Source good, that's what New Way, I'm on the way with municipal equipment, and I have New Way as a manufacturer, which would be the body. Source good is
Co-op.
basically, yeah, it's what the New Way contractor for us say, because we are the main, we're the lead on this quote. But y'all are looking at a 22-yard New Way Sidewinder automated side loader. It's a great unit. Just to back up a little bit, when you're going to be switching over, assuming to an automated side loader, you're going to save time and money and safety issues. It's going to be a one-man operation. You're not going to need the helper, they call it, on the back like you would a rear loader. So there's not going to be fatigue on his part, injury. You'll save on workers' comp. It's also a lot safer too as well. Sometimes traffic ongoing or from behind can be a problem. So that's the long and the short of the advantages of switching over. A lot of municipalities are doing this. It's harder to find people. And the big meat and potatoes of the New Way Sidewinder is the 12-foot reach that comes standard. So a lot of the competition will have a 9-foot reach. They'll have an option for a longer one, but this enables the driver not to have to get right up next to the curb or whatever the case may be. It's a little bit safer, so you don't get parked cars. And also too, it's not an offset gripper. This is the arm going out from the truck. It stays straight out. Some of them come out and they kind of come out that way. It's going to wear down your bearings. It's also harder to maneuver in between cars and so forth and so on. So that's an advantage too. The gripper on this, on the actual claw that will grab onto the trash can, is little pucks. They don't have belts. A lot of them have belts that will wrap around those brakes. You have to go back to the shop and get those replaced. With the pucks, you can just carry some into the truck and the driver can bolt them back on. And the last thing regarding the arm, it's bolted to the rails, to the chassis rails. So it makes it very smooth. Some of them are bolted to the body even, which we're going to get a lot of shaking around. And when they're bolted to the frame rails, it's a lot smoother operation. It's not going to wear down your tires as much, and it's much better. Town of Greenville uses the same setup that you're looking at, which is the Mack chassis, same body and everything, and they pick up about anywhere from 800 to 900 houses a day, loads. So, and they're also getting a payload of about what your all's 20 yards do right now. So they have all types of stops. They have, but they don't have a lot of. I'm drawing a blank. Who's going to do that? Your subdivisions and all that. They have those, and they also have some country stops too. That's the long and the short of it.
Will our current garbage cans be compatible with this?
I came up a couple of weeks ago and took down all the information of all the current cans you have, and they do. And also too, you can adjust the pressure on the gripper. Sometimes things expand in the heat, and they will become a little bit more fragile when it comes into the winter time too.
Mr. Doty?
What's the weight capacity on that arm
Yeah.
to pick up?
1,000 pounds, straight up.
Fully extended? What's the preventive maintenance cycle on it? Is it a lot more or less than the rear load? Because I know I deal with robotics when you're reaching out, and that's what this arm is. Basically, it's just a hydraulic robot. You got a lot more, maintenance involved with it because more bushings and.
Including in the quote price, where it includes, of course, the delivery of the unit, driver and mechanic training, where our service department, municipal equipment, is going to come down and do that, as well as a representative from New Way, which is built in Iowa. The main thing is keeping it greased, and there's also, it's a chain with the grip that goes up and down on, making sure that's tight, but not too tight. And that's going to be something we'll go over to as well, about videos and everything.
And one other issue we're having is with technical support and spare parts, because Barry talks about that. Who will be keeping those spare parts? Do you all stock them back to the manufacturer?
And to go a little bit about municipal equipment, we've been around since 1971. I've worked out of Knoxville, and we have Ohio, Indiana, Kentucky, and Tennessee. We've got a parts department. We also have in Louisville, Kentucky. Also have parts in Murfreesboro. We can also drop ship overnight to you guys, because we always keep the main parts suggested by New Way in stock at our facilities that are most common.
Mr. Chairman.
Ms. Ahern?
Sir, is there any type of warranty on these vehicles?
There is, absolutely. And I've got the warranty terms. It's in your packets too as well. And for the body side, it's going to be the body, the arm, the hydraulics. So that's what, and the cylinders too as well. So
Is it mileage, so many miles, so many years?
it's years. We did one that's just standard 2 years, and then a quote with also the 5-year extension.
Ms. Howell, did you
Yes,
have
sir.
something?
This is the heavy-duty, practically never breaks unit that holds that much garbage.
You know what?
That's what we're looking for.
That's exactly the one we reserved for.
Okay.
We'll take two, right?
Yeah.
Correct terminology.
Yeah.
What's the difference with the side loader and the rear loader truck? What's the difference in the price? You may have said that in the beginning.
It's the rear loader was what did you say, 240?
162, I
ours,
believe was.
We had two of them. It was a little over 400 for the side loader with extended warranty, and then they're about 30 grand less with just the standard 2 year.
Ms. Howell?
Yes, sir. Thank you. So you said 800 to 900 houses a day?
Yes.
Now, what's our regular one doing, Mr. Poole? With the guys in the back?
300 to 500.
Oh, okay.
And we're talking about cars, not houses.
Yes, sir.
The number of cars saved, and that's growing, because a lot of people have 2 cars rather than one.
Yeah.
They get 2, have to get 2 in one spot.
Yes.
In many cases, so.
And that can vary too. A lot of it's getting used to the unit. Excuse me, and the drivers always get better pretty quickly.
Okay.
In terms of getting to use it, knowing the stops, knowing the routes, and that could even increase more. It just depends on a lot of factors.
Well, it also might take care of the, it doesn't fit into your garbage can, just lay it right there. That doesn't happen.
Well,
You're supposed to say, no, it doesn't.
no, it does not.
We need the, if you're not in there, he has to.
You're not in there, right?
You're not in there. You're not in the right
And also,
group.
it's a point of, this can dump a cart that's, citizens will park backward or sideways.
Oh, yeah.
It can do it any which way.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Mr. Howell.
Mr. Poole, I want to get the answer from both of you here. We have a real problem with the trucks going into the landfill. We've talked about that. Is this unit any lower to the ground, the body on it, than the other type? that's an issue that we're gonna have to address, because
When that arm goes down and sets in its resting position, is it, you know, how many inches off the floor it is?
I do not. I can get that information.
The rear of those garbage trucks, I think, George, is somewhere around 18 inches, 18 inches. So the rear of those garbage trucks we're using now is pretty low. So we have to, obviously, we need to get back there on that.
Now, the city dumps into that landfill. So and you're saying there's
we just been having an issue, talked to Mr. Poole about it, the mud getting stuck, trying to get in and out of the landfill, because we don't dump inside the building no more, so you have to go to the top of the hill.
In the winter time, when it's cold and wet, the trucks
Yeah.
just go down
Yeah.
more and more, and you drag brake pads off the bottom of the trucks, the rear drag sometimes. It just gets, you know, it's a maintenance issue. They have to do rock on it, try to keep it, such that it can hold up the way the truck's in. It's impossible in the winter time when you got rain, the trailer lays it up, that type of thing.
Yeah.
Also, too, when your arm is extended and comes back, the gripper will flatten out, and it'll park itself back in above the frame rails of the chassis, so it's not going to be dragging.
That's a good question. Yeah.
Mr. Doughty, if, I hadn't heard of this, that we're syncing up with trucks and such, what's the weight difference with this, with a 22-yard versus 20-yard, adding the extra hydraulics, the arm and such as it?
Well, I don't know what the specs are, what you guys currently have, but you'll see in there the weight.
You're talking about 8 to 10 tons. You know, what I know about it, you're looking at somewhere around 10 tons. It could be 9, it could be 10 and a half.
I'm talking about versus trucks we have now, are we,
That's what we've got now.
we got now?
Our trucks will do between 8 to 10 and a half tons.
So I'm just wondering, I mean, if this truck's heavier because of the additional arm, the additional workings, the mechanics, because if it's gonna hold up for 5 years, I'm here to tell you, it's gotta be heavy. And
It's different. I don't want to give.
is that gonna add
24 variables.
24
But, I
ton?
mean, you're looking at probably seven plus years. I mean, I've got people city keeps order-
Now, I was gonna ask you, so the city uses that Sidewinder?
Morristown?
Yes, sir. Oh, okay.
Yes.
I have one question. You touched on this. We're getting the specs call for a 22 yard. And it looks like the weight is approximately the same for a 24 yard. Is there any, I mean, is 22 to 24 yard, is that any advantage to?
Not really, not when it comes down to that principle. Then it jumps up to a 31, there's a big difference.
Right, I see that. Yeah.
22 or 24 really doesn't.
Doesn't add that many more stops or anything.
This one goes down the street twice. The rear loader, they get it one time. They just go down one time.
But is that safe?
In many cases, they're on the wrong side of the road.
And the truck does that to protect the guy on the back. You know, he gets in opposing traffic, and the guy on the back is doing the work. Well, he's just putting the guy in the back in opposing traffic. Keeps him safe, but, you know, we're in the wrong lane. And, we do that in subdivided areas where there's very little traffic. You can't do it on the busy road. So, we don't, in terms of percentage, I'd say we do that about maybe 30, 40% of the time, going to where we're at. So if we're in subdivision, we wouldn't do that.
Are you gonna look about changing the route maybe for this truck?
We can combine two routes into one, as well as saving the person on the back, saving time. And, you know, I dare say we might work down from 5 days to 3.5, pretty easy. Have less time on the road.
Automateds are a lot quicker than rear loaders.
Mr. Richardson?
This is to Barry. along those lines, I received an email, and it may have come to the rest of you guys from Chuck Christensen. He works for you. And he's been there 17 years, and he's worried about losing his job because of this. And I would hope that this would just allow us to reassign people like him that's been there 17 years and loves his work. And this young man's only 40 years old, so he's got a long career ahead of him. And so I think we should reassure those people that this is not going to cost them their job. We're just going to figure out a different, duty. Yeah, we can't afford to lose people that love their work.
Chairman, I have one other.
Yes, Mr. Crenshaw.
Barry, could you reaffirm to us the cost savings over a period of years that will recoup the difference in the cost of, I think the other one was 277, some whereabouts, and now we're going to 401, but with one employee rather than 2 to 3, that, we'll recoup that in just a few years?
Well, you take a person that makes 14, 15 hours, plus their benefits, you're looking at $50,000 each. So, like you said, the rear load is 240, this is 402, that's $162,000, and between 3 and 4 years, you've saved it just not having a person on the back. And then if you combine routes, and you only have to work one day instead of 2, then, of course, the people that are going to be driving and operating these trucks, you don't want to, we need to pay them well. We're going to be doing it all. And if we could reduce the day, the amount of time that we're out there collecting by 40%, it's worth paying them some more to do that. So we need to become generous in terms of to those operator drivers. So pay can't stay the same.
Yes.
We're going to have to rethink that. But I really think this has got a really good potential to save them a lot of money and putting our employees in a much safer situation.
Thank you.
Any other questions for these gentlemen? We thank you, Mr. Poole. Gentlemen, thank you so much for the information.
We need to address anything about our previous work. What if we should ask the mayor if we need to add that to our purchase order? Update it. For the garbage.
I think that would be a good time to get the mayor's attention. Mr. Mayor, I'll let you address that if you would, please.
Mayor, I just wondered, last month we approved to move forward on this purchase. Do we need to go ahead and vote tonight on that we have settled on the automated truck or not? I can't answer for everyone else.
If you want to get in line, then you need to appropriate the money and we issue the purchase order. And we can have a budget amendment prepared next week. If you want to move ahead, and you want to get in line as Barry's talked about, then we've got to appropriate the money. And then part of that process is you approving the budget amendment.
Would this be a budget amendment instead of a business item on this?
It'd be a budget amendment.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we approve the purchase of the automated arm sanitation truck and add that to our budget amendments for the monthly meeting.
Second.
Mr. Long? Mr. Long? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Aye. Thank you.
Have one opposed, yes. Yes.
Ready? All right, moving down, item 5, new business. 5A, resolution authorizing Hamblen County to join the state of Tennessee and other local governments in amending the Tennessee State Subdivision opioid abatement agreement and approving the related settlement agreements. Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Chairman, just one clarification that we need to ask for on the garbage truck is, you want the 2-year warranty, the 5-year warranty, and authorize that expenditure.
Chairman, I recommend that we do the 5-year warranty because that's, that gets us down the road. We'll have what we got going on. This is our first automated truck. And that's just my opinion.
I make a motion, we go with the 5-year.
Do I have a second?
Second.
We have a second, Mr. Doty. Motion by Mr. Long. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? So moved. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
In your packet is a resolution authorizing Hamblen County to participate in what's termed as the second wave of opioid abatement settlement revenue. And this comes from the settlements that have been negotiated with mostly pharmacies. You'll see on there the Allergan, the Teva, the CVS, Walgreens, and Walmart. And what this document does is commits us to participate in there, and that way we can get some of the proceeds of the settlement. You may recall that we have already participated in the first wave, which is against the distributors of the opioid drugs, and we've received a significant amount of money already in those settlements, and we'll receive about between $70,000 and $100,000 over the next 18 years each year from that settlement, and this is equivalent to those as well. So what I'm asking is that you approve it. Now, one thing you may notice on this sheet is down towards the bottom, the deadline for us to commit is April 18th, which is next Tuesday. And I would also ask that you give me the authority to go ahead and submit the notification that we're going to participate, because this pretty much is a win-win-win for us.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Do I have a motion?
I make a motion, we
Mr. Long, a second?
Second.
Mike Richardson. Is any discussion or questions? Yes.
Chairman, where does the money go? I mean,
It goes into, we have a different fund, we have a different bucket just for the opioid abatement money.
Okay.
And there are restrictions to the use of that money.
Okay.
And in the budget process, what we'll do is we'll ask that some of that money be used for recovery court. And we'll also ask that some of it be used for our jail to work program, which is a reentry program. So it'll be for things like that. But it is how it's segregated from the
Okay.
general fund. It's in its
Okay.
own little pot.
Thank you.
Do we have any other questions or discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? So moved. Item 5B, a resolution authorizing Hamblen County to accept the contract for the Violent Crime Intervention Fund Grant in the amount of $179,732. Mr. Britton.
What we need to amend that, just, and strike the word, well, no, I take that back totally, yes, we don't have the contract yet. We're still waiting on the contract. Same as last month, the state did contact us, ask us to change some of the items that we're going to purchase with this grant. So If we get the grant between now and 5 days before, we'll get it out to you, but we have not received the contract from the state yet. So, so what we can do is maybe not vote as a committee, and we bring it back next week if we have the contract.
Very good.
Item 5C, a resolution authorizing Hamblen County to accept a state grant to establish mental health court. Ms. Nye.
The State Department of Mental Health and Substance Abuse reached out to existing recovery courts. Governor Lee made it law last year in May to establish and implement mental health courts across the state. There's currently only 9. So they reached out to our court, and we reached back and had some conversations, and we're asking to begin a mental health court in Hamblen County. It will be for felony and misdemeanor courts, general sessions. They won't meet together, but we can serve both populations. Totally grant funded. I'm not asking for any money from the county. It's $150,000 annual grant to begin with.
We've been in conversations with the state about this. Actually, they approached us about creating this court. Since we do have a recovery court that's operating well. The $150,000 is all state money. There'll be no local money used to operate this court. I recommend that mental health is I see it more in our jail to work program, where I meet all the participants in that program. Trauma that they has caused their addiction basically is tremendous. And mental health services are there's not enough of them. Not just in Hamblen County, but all across the state that are trying to reduce mental health, folks suffering from mental health issues that are committing crimes, trying to get them appropriate treatment. And this court will also work with people who are not involved in criminal. An opportunity for us to help.
We have a motion to approve.
So moved.
Mr. Harville, got a second?
Second.
Mr. Reed, second. Any questions? Yes, Mr. Reed.
With this money, is it a one-time thing?
No, sir. We were told,
ongoing?
the mayor asked that question and said, as long as it's a law. That's what we were told, and they decided May 25th of 2022.
So, the other question I had was, will we have to hire somebody with this money?
So what we're proposing to do in our budget for the first year is I would split my duties between recovery court and mental health court and hire a case manager for mental health court. Mental health court is heavy on case management, and that's what we do the first year. Depending on the rest of funding for recovery court, because it's growing so fast, is what we would have to do going into year 2 or 3.
I just would caution about using grant money for ongoing, employees. We don't want to get somebody's, hopes up and then the grant's gone and we have to do something different with it.
Your understanding, wasn't it, that it will, they're implementing them?
And my fear was, like we had previous grants where they last 3 years and then expect the local to pick up the money.
Right.
This is ongoing.
Okay.
Recovery courts.
It's needed, I agree, but I just wouldn't want to.
Recovery courts have been around for over 2 decades, and the same department will be governing both.
Okay.
The Department of Mental Health and Substance Abuse.
Okay.
Mr. Long?
Quick question. Will this be any more expense if we have someone in court? You're going to be serving other counties, right?
For the mental health court, no.
It'll be for Hamblen County only?
Hamblen County only.
Now, I wouldn't be surprised, though, if
we,
We couldn't do general sessions from any other county because our judges have to volunteer. They can't get paid for the adult treatment courts. Judge Boniface would hear felons, so she could potentially hear people from our other counties in our district, but Judge Simkowski would not be able to do that for general sessions.
Okay, I have a question.
Ms. Howe?
Yes, sir. Thank you. My question would be, so we have this court. Now, do we provide some services, or we still have to take them far away to, it's, I mean, once that gavel, I got the gavel business, and now you're okay, and you're in but do we provide any other services?
Well, the state does expect us to try to use the 2 safety net providers in our community, which is Helen Ross McNabb and Cherokee Mental Health. If they need residential, we have to seek that, try to find those services.
Okay.
Part of our budget submitted included quite a bit of funds for assistance to individuals. I'm being told by the district attorney's office they anticipate seeing a lot of general sessions cases, trying to do case management to keep people on their medication, that way hopefully can keep them in their homes, in the community, if they can just maintain in their current environment. What happens is we've got all these co-occurring. The thing with the felon being served in felony courts is if we have somebody who starts recovery court and we see, now this person really needs to be in mental health court, we can interchange those two, but the general sessions can only serve mental health. And Judge Collins and Judge Simkowski both attended the judicial conference on the mental health court the last month or so when they went to Nashville. So they're working together too, because most of the referrals would come from Judge Collins' court.
Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
I have a question, please.
Yes, Ms. Ahern.
Ms. Knight, on the case management, what are the credentials of your case management going to be?
So because this is all really new, literally in the last 2 or 3 months, I've not spent a lot of time looking at already developed programs because we haven't received any money to do that yet. I just know that the goal would be to hire an experienced case manager.
So what would their background be in? There's different types of case management, so I'm just curious, so is it going to be a medical background, social work background? Do you have any idea?
I'm told social work background.
And this will be a full-time position?
Yes, sir.
What else will come out of the 150,000?
Half my salary, their salary. I've got it right here. You've got supplies. You would have to set up the office, the phone bill, everything. Pretty much, it covers everything: travel, conferences, training, and there's local travel. Specific assistance to individuals. That would be if we had to help get them assisted residents, or if we had to buy their medications for them until they got on an insurance plan. We anticipate most of these people would be on disability. Usually, that's what we're seeing probably. And then we're looking at I'm sorry, I apologize.
That's okay.
Occupancy rate, even with these extra funds, not needing them for all personnel expenses, even doing an occupancy, paying the county back for office space and janitorial maintenance.
So you're going to split time between recovery and mental health court?
Yes, sir.
So will we have to replace the other half of you in recovery court? You're supposed to say absolutely. I'm such demand.
No, maybe down the road you can replace me on mental health.
Oh, okay, I got you.
Recovery side.
I got you, okay.
If I had to choose.
I got you. Any other questions for Ms. Knight?
Just one. Is this going to require a court setting? And if so, how frequently?
So it depends on who we have. And if they're in the community, Judge Boniface plans on adding anybody on her docket to after our weekly recovery court now. And Judge Simkowski has until we have, the grant starts July 1st. We're anticipating 60 to 120 days to get it up and running because we'll have to develop everything, the policies, procedures, handbook, visit existing courts. And then he's got that time to figure out where he's going to put it on his schedule.
I was just thinking, you mentioned the janitorial services and such as that coming out of it. We have our court officers that will have to be staffing as well. Can we cover part of that through this grant as far as the additional court officers required for that court?
We don't, we only have court officers when we have inmates now. Is that correct, Sheriff?
That's correct, and I'm in there on this team as well, so a lot of times I take care of that duty as well.
On the mental health?
A lot of inmates, I'm talking about the recovery court.
Yeah, that's what I'm asking about, the mental health.
The
Because
sheriff's not made a commitment to, that he would be actually the one to serve on the mental health court team, or if he would send a representative.
I was just wondering, because you got a judge on the bench, you need a court officer. Plus you're gonna have people at the door, so.
If nothing else, there will be somebody from our office in there with them.
Sheriff's Department's been very cooperative with us, working to have somebody there.
This is kind of a work in progress at this point.
It is.
Yeah.
And you know, the mayor graciously gave me the go-ahead to keep asking questions because they're reaching out to the courts, and they did it, I guess they've spent since May of last year or July 1 of last year figuring out how they were going to implement all this, and then they start reaching out to us, and we're like, if they're asking us, what if they're asking the other courts in the other counties and they jump on it first? So why don't we get on it first if we can?
Very good. I think it's necessary.
Judge Collins seems to think it will be.
It's necessary. Very good. Thank you so much. Appreciate that. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Thank you very much, Ms. Knight. Item 5D, Fiscal Agent Memorandum of Understanding between Hamblen County Government and the 3rd Judicial District Recovery Court. Mayor Britton.
This is part of what the state is asking. Well, actually, let's see. This one is about a grant that the recovery court's getting ready to apply for. You've already approved for them to apply for it, and they're asking for the county to be the fiscal agent. And so that will require us to spend some time in finance to process payroll, make purchases, and that kind of thing. And so I wanted to get county commission approval before we approve that.
Motion to approve, Mr. Chairman.
Motion to approve, Mr. Doty. Need a second?
Second.
Second, Mr. Cutchaw. Any questions for Mr. Mayor? And let's take a vote. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? So moved. Item 5E, fiscal year 23, Homeland Security Grant application. Mr. Mayor?
Mr. Chairman, this is a grant we apply for every year through the state of Tennessee. It's federal money for emergency Homeland Security use. And this application will be for $24,000, which our EMA Director, Chris Bell, rotates the money among the various public safety agencies, buying equipment for them. So we're asking for permission to apply for the $24,000 Homeland Security grant.
Have a motion?
Make a motion,
Mr. Long, do I have a second?
Second.
Mr. Huntsman.
Mr. Huntsman, thank you. Any questions for the mayor? We'll call a vote. All in favor? Signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? So carried. Item 5F, extension of commercial lease for county clerk satellite office. Mr. Mayor?
Next two items deal with our satellite office space out off David Clark Parkway. Peggy Henderson, our county clerk, well, let me back up. The lease we currently have for the space out there where the county clerk satellite office is, the lease expires June 30th. So she wants to keep the satellite office through the end of next year, year 2024, the calendar year, and then she plans on consolidating her office at that time once the circuit court clerk vacates the space down here and moves it to the new building. She'll occupy some of that space for driver's license and birth certificates, and but she needs to stay out of the satellite office until then. So that's the first step, is to extend this lease till or through December of 2024.
I have a motion.
Make a motion.
Ms. Howell,
Yes.
second.
Second.
Mr. Richardson, do we have any other questions for the mayor on this? Yes, Mr. Warner.
Judge Boniface will stay out there too.
Yes, and that's the next item.
I'm sorry.
That's the next item.
All right, let's take a vote. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? So carried. Moving ahead. Item 5G, extension of lease with the state of Tennessee for Judge Boniface's office. Mr. Mayor?
So Judge Boniface and her administrative assistant and our child support court magistrate all have offices in that space. The state subleases that space out at the satellite office from us. This extends the lease with the state of Tennessee through December of 2024.
Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Mr. Downey, do I have a second?
Second.
Mr. Harville? Anybody have any questions or comments?
Chairman, one question.
Yes, sir.
This, Mayor, this is through, of course, December 31st of 2024. At
Correct.
that time, are we going to look at sending her or setting her up at the new health department campus?
No, she'll have an office in the new Justice Center.
Okay, Beth Boniface.
Yes.
Okay, my bad.
Any other questions?
I see the rental went up.
Yes.
Okay, let's vote. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? So moved. Item 5H, pharmacy benefit management discussion. Mr. Mayor.
Just if you put the presentation up. We need to have a discussion on our health insurance plan and its current status and the year that we've had. And I want to start off by just giving you a little history about the health insurance plan. We operate a self-insured plan, which means that through Blue Cross Blue Shield is the administrator, but we're the entity at risk. We pay the bills, we collect the premiums, and so that's how we operate. So you guys can see this on your screens, is just talk about the history a little bit of our health plan. The transition started in 2012 when we opened the employee health clinic with the city of Morristown. That was the first step that we took to go to a self-insured plan. And what that means in self-insured versus fully insured, when we were fully insured with Blue Cross Blue Shield, they took all the risk, but they also took all the money. And so what we learned over the next 5-6 years after we went self-insured is that Blue Cross Blue Shield was keeping a lot of our money. And So we were able to stabilize. We were increasing insurance premiums by 5-6% every year. We're able to stabilize that, and I'll show you that in just a second. So the first step was to open the employee health clinic, which we did in the Strait Building in 2012, and it's been very successful during the 10 years that we've had it. Premise Healthcare bought Care Here, which was the original operator, and Premise is a nationwide company where Care Here was more regional, and so that has happened. So right now Premise operates, and we contract, we being the partnership, the City of Morristown and Hamblen County, contract with Premise. We converted from a fully insured plan to a self-insured plan, with Blue Cross being the administrator in 2013. And we started that with a reserve of $764,000. And so what that means is I speak about buckets, and we had a different bucket of money for our health plan. And so we started it with $764,000. It peaked through the next few years at $1.7 million in 2017 and 18, and you can see that with the graph on your screen. Since 2020, claims have exceeded our revenue or premiums paid in, and with the largest being this year, where we anticipate and we're projecting that the claims will exceed our premiums by over $1 million. So the premiums, I mentioned about stabilizing our premium increases. Premiums have not increased in our plan since 2013. Since we started the self-insured plan, we have not increased premiums, although we did have to infuse some money earlier this year into the plan. Currently, the county pays 100% of employees' health insurance premiums, and then about 85% of the dependent coverage. So that's what we currently do. I mentioned that earlier this year, and it was in the budget, that we infused $260,000 into the plan to try to beef it up some, but we need to put some more money into the plan because of the increase in premiums. So the cause of the deficit and the cause of the high premiums have been large claims from cancer patients, large claims from dialysis treatment. It's very expensive. Large claims from heart conditions that some of our members have, and then large increases from pharmacy claims. Our pharmacy claims over the last year have increased 32%, and to about, we anticipate, we're projecting just based on our current experience, that our pharmacy claims will be $1.4 million. And you're seeing that in the healthcare industry and with healthcare plans, is that drugs and the pharmacy benefit is becoming more and more costly. Actions that we need to take or to consider, what we need to consider is, one, is during the budget process, is that we make a decision to increase premiums, which means increased cost to the county, and then make that effective July the 1st. And then possibly increase the cost share for employees, where employees, instead of paying 100% of employees, the City of Morristown employees pay 15%. The landfill, they pay 15%. Different government agencies, their employees pay 15% of their premiums. And then the last thing we look at is attack our pharmacy costs by changing our pharmacy benefit manager and moving it from Blue Cross Blue Shield. Two recommendations today is, one is to change our PBM, and we're estimating on the low end. Don't want to over sell this or overestimate what we would save, but based on our health plan consultant, which is Cheryl Morgan, and Terry Evans from Cheryl Morgan is here today. Terry's right here. We had conversations with them today, is we could save at a minimum of about $150,000 in our pharmacy costs. And we do that by buying drugs cheaper, using manufacturer coupons to help both the plan and the employee reduce their costs for pharmacy, and then use patient assistance programs, which would help some of our members who are on very high-cost medication, get them for free or lower by teaming with manufacturers and the pharmacy benefit manager. That would be its job to get that done. What does it mean to change a pharmacy or a PBM? Is and specifically the company that we're recommending is SaveRx. It won't cost the members any more money. Some of them may save money by having to avoid the copay. There will be a new prescription card, and that's always painful. Transition's always painful, and then there would be a new mail order pharmacy. Now, our employees who use the health clinic are familiar with mail order. They get their drugs, often their maintenance drugs, by mail every 30 days, every 60 days, every 90 days, depending on what drug. And so they're familiar with that. But there will be some change, and but it would be, we would keep it at a minimum. Now, that's the first change, would be to change our pharmacy benefit from Blue Cross Blue Shield to SaveRx, with an estimated savings of about $150,000 to start with. It'd be a 3-year contract, and we've got the contract in hand. It's being reviewed by county attorney, and so we're not prepared to hand it out today. I just got it this afternoon, but we will before the 5 days, and you'll have it in front of you. I want our legal team to review it first. That's the first action, and I'll take any questions on that.
I've got one.
Sure.
Okay, when you're changing the drug,
Yes.
so if you've got a patient that's on some high-dollar meds for cancer or whatever, is there a chance that company would deny paying that?
No, it would be all the drugs that our members are currently taking. Okay, they would continue on those drugs, and then what SaveRx would do would try to purchase those drugs cheaper, and then also maybe offer some alternatives, but we can't make the member change. But we could offer some alternatives that might be cheaper, might even be better for the condition.
Just so they're not going to lose that.
Correct.
Chairman,
Yes.
just to reiterate what he's saying, that means anything that our members need now. Is there any drugs that will be lost from one plan to the other?
No. That's not the way it's been explained. And Terry, if you want to speak to that, you can. We're going to be held, that's the wrong, I won't use that term. No.
Yes, sir.
Would be the answer.
Yes, sir, okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
You can choose how you want to manage your self-funded health plan. The benefit with a company like SaveRx is they're flexible. What do you need them to do? They're happy to do it. They take the lead on trying to help the employees through their conditions and get them what they need to be healthy, not just save money. So their focus is completely on the employee and making sure they have what they need, and the plan and making sure they're trying to save money for the plan. You grandfather in what everybody's currently taking. If a doctor turns in a prescription after this change, a new prescription, SaveRx takes it upon themselves to contact the doctor and talk with them and say, this particular medication over here, medication B, has the same or better outcomes at less cost to the plan. Would you consider that? So that's how they work this.
Chairman, basically, they try to get the physician to use a generic
Not necessarily generic.
and/or an equivalent versus name brand versus a name brand, because basically the same component of medication is just a different name.
Absolutely.
So,
And there are new things called biosimilar drugs coming down the pipe that are actually biologically similar to what's already out there, but costing less money. So they're looking at those as well. But they look at outcomes. Outcomes is the number one thing they evaluate. Does it provide the same level of treatment as the higher dollar medication, or within a reasonable 1%? Do they have the same outcomes? Because it doesn't do any good.
and that's good the physician or the pharmacy calls the physician, because lots of time physicians are ordering medications because they always have a brand that they always have. So if they get them to change that brand, yes.
But you're saying it's grandfathered in, there's nobody that will lose, they don't have to be forced off of what they're taking, right?
And there are some medications that are high dollar medications. Cancer drugs. There are certain cancer drugs for certain conditions that you pay what you pay because you need that person to get that medication. There are certain medications that are higher dollar medications, but because of someone's innate physiology, they can only take that medication. They've tried others and it didn't work. Those are all covered. There are provisions for all of that within the plan.
Mr. Richardson?
The $1.4 million increase, was that mostly cost of drugs increase, or was there more drugs prescribed? Or do you know? Okay. Okay, that's, it was just curiosity.
So I'd say the medications.
I'm sure the cost has
Yeah, the
gone
cost of
up.
medications went up too.
We haven't increased the employee base, any significant employee base. But we are getting needing more drugs.
She said, my,
I think the COVID.
Could you come up? We can't hear you. I mean, well, we may hear you, but the recording can't hear you.
Medication cost increases are trending at least 10% per year. And as they come out with new brand new medications and high dollar medications. And we've seen them advertised that, this is going to help you. And so you see the commercial, you go to your doctor and you ask the doctor for that medication, and the doctor wants to treat the patient because they care about the patient. So they give them the medication. What SaveRx tries to do is provide the information that the information behind it backs up the fact that that's not the only medication. That high dollar medication isn't the only one that you can prescribe for that to treat that condition.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, ma'am.
may I ask a question?
Yes,
I
you
know
may.
I'm not on yours. Just curious, ma'am, and if you don't care, stay close, because it's taped and people, I've heard more complaints about them not being able to hear than anything else. But I know sometimes when they change medicine, for lack of a nicer word, there's a severe reaction, and I've been down that road. So what is your manner to take care of that if the patient has a severe reaction to it?
The patient, in a lot of instances, doctors try other medications and they know that my patient can't take that. SaveRx takes what the doctor tells them.
Okay.
The doctor's treated this person. They know that they can't take that medication. So SaveRx acknowledges that. Says, okay, as I was saying, there are some medications, because of the person's physiology, they have to take this. We want them to take that. We want them to be healthy. We want to treat the condition. We want them to be better. So that's That's the way they look at it.
Any other questions?
Chairman, our ask is that the committee recommend the commission that we move forward with changing the PBM to Save RX.
Yeah, we need to take a vote on that. Okay.
Motion to approve.
Motion, Mr. Doty.
Second.
Second, Mr. Huntsman. Any more questions? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And opposed. So moved.
Mr. Chairman, the second action that we need you to take, and this is a little more urgent, is we need to infuse some money into the health insurance plan. We project right now, if our claims continue with our current revenue stream, we'll end up in the red by about $82,000. So we are asking and recommending that we infuse $600,000 into the plan that we think will help us finish the year with about a $500,000 reserve. On your screen should be the breakdown on what each fund would pay, and it's based on the number of employees that are in that fund. So this is critical. Also, in the graph that's on your screen too, is it shows what Amanda showed earlier about our fund balance, and this is the general fund, where the largest part of this infusion would come from. Is we're projecting at the end of this fiscal year that we would have over $8 million in reserve, and that we would use some of those funds. The $453,000 from the general fund would come from fund balance. Really, it would come from fund balance for all these funds.
Hear a motion?
Make a motion.
Mr. Richardson, do I have a second?
Second.
Mr. Doty, any questions?
One thing, Mr. Chairman, we would have, if committee approves and makes the recommendation, we'll have budget amendments for those moves to present next week.
Absolutely. Would it be separate budget amendments, Mr. Mayor, or would it be?
1, 3, yeah. 3.
Be 3 separate ones?
Yes.
Any other questions? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? It's carried.
Thank you.
Moving down to item 5I1, Hamblen County Board of Education, Budget Amendment Number 6, increase of $435,000. Ms. Anthony, there you are.
This amendment for the general fund is a request to budget undesignated fund balance for increases in utilities and fuel costs for this year. Our electricity is trending about 16% over last year, water 14%, and our diesel fuel costs are about 52% on the average price per gallon over last year. These funds will be used for these purposes only, and if they're not spent at the end of the year, they'll return to the fund balance from which they came. I'll be happy to answer questions.
Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Mr. Harville, and second, Mr. Cutshaw. Does anyone have any questions for Ms. Antrican? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? So moved. Thank you. Item 5I2, Fund 101, Animal Control, $6,950.
The next few budget amendments are, there's quite a few of them, but it's mainly to true up accounts for the end of the year, things that will be overspent, and we're reallocating money within those departments. In this one, for animal control, we need to increase the overtime pay and related salary expenses And also there are other supplies and materials, and that's like where they buy like leashes and dog treats and things that they need to catch dogs. It comes out of that line, and we're going to move that from the deputy and the medical insurance line because there'll be extra funds there.
Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Mr. Doty, a second.
Second.
Mr. Long, any questions? We'll go on record as saying that in my district, I've got about 3 complaints from citizens on out-of-control animals running loose, and they've contacted animal control, and animal control is not doing a whole lot. So we're gonna have to revisit that, I suppose. Okay. Anyone else have anything? Let's vote. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? It's carried. Item 5I3, Fund 101, County Commission, $1,000.
So this moves $1,000 from the board and committee fee line to travel to cover excess expenses we had this year, mainly because of the training that y'all went to in Nashville in the fall. So that's why the extra $1,000 is needed over the budget amount.
Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Mr. Doty, need a second?
Second.
Mr. Harville, any questions? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Item 5I4, Fund 101, County Mayor, $3,600.
We are asking to move $3,600. This will come from fund balance because the mayor doesn't have enough excess funds in his other lines to cover it. But it's to cover the cost of the time capsule that we bought earlier in the year that came out of the mayor's budgeted line. So now it's overspent to, carry him through the rest of the year. So we're moving $3,600 into his other charges line to cover that expense of the time capsule.
Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Mr. Doty, a second.
Second.
Mr. Cutshaw, any questions? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? So moved. Item 5I6, excuse me, that's item 5I5, Fund 101, County Trustee's Office, $3,620.
On this one, we're moving money from the trustees' part-time personnel line and postal charges to cover an increase in medical expense they had in their department this year because one of their employees changed plans during the middle of the year. And so it's more than what was budgeted.
Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Mr. Doty, a second.
Second.
Who was that? Mr. Long? Thank you, sir. Any questions? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item 5I6, Fund 101, Courtroom Security, $15,000.
On this one, we're just moving $15,000 from the courtroom security deputy line into the medical insurance, again, because people have changed positions and their medical insurance ended up being more than what was previously budgeted.
Have a motion?
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Cutshaw, do I have a second?
Second.
Second, Mr. Harville. Any questions? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? So moved. Item 5I7, Fund 101, Drug Court, $4,400.
This budget amendment will move money from the drug court deputy and medical insurance line to cover an increased cost in evaluation and testing. And that's where drug court pays for the program entrance assessments and drug screens for their participants. So it was increased over what we had budgeted.
Motion to
approve.
Motion to approve. Do I have a second?
Second.
Got a second? Mr. Long? Any questions? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? So moved. Item 5I9, Fund 101, Juvenile Court, $23,700.
Hold on just a second.
Did I skip one?
Jail.
We left the jail out. That will be item 8, Fund 101, jail, $13,000.
On this budget amendment, we're moving $13,000 from the guard line to cover increased cost in custodial supplies, prisoner clothing, and other charges, which is where they pay for like mattresses and hygiene items for the inmates, and that has been more than what we anticipated, so we're willing to move additional funds there.
Have a motion?
So moved.
Mr. Doty, a second?
Second.
Mr. Reed, any questions? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? So moved. Item 5I9, Fund 101, Juvenile Court, $23,700.
This amendment, we're moving $23,700 from the attendant line for juvenile to cover an increased cost in communication, the contract with government agency line, which is where the Richard Bean Juvenile Detention Facility invoices are paid out of, and then her 399 line, which is where transports and drug screens come out of. So each of those lines need these additional funds through the end of the year.
Do I have a motion?
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Cutshaw, do I have a second?
Second.
Mr. Richardson, thank you. Any questions?
I'll be abstaining, Mr. Chairman, because my wife is over that department.
Okay, Mr. Doty will be abstaining. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? One abstention. Item 5I10, Fund 101, other facilities, $10,800.
This amendment will move $10,800 from the electricity line for maintenance into the listed expense accounts, salary and salary-related lines, as well as natural gas. So these lines will have expenses more than what we budgeted, and we need to move this money from electricity to cover them.
Thank you. Can I have a motion?
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Doty, do I have a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Huntsman, thank you, sir. Any questions? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? So moved. Item 5I12, 11, Fund 101, Parks and Fair Boards, $24,105.
This amendment just reallocates funds from the lines listed into personnel lines, maintenance personnel, part-time personnel, medical, life insurance, and then we needed an extra $10,000 in electricity over what we budgeted. There's been some personnel changes at Cherokee Park, as everyone's aware of. We have a new park manager. Their overtime line expenses have gone down, but part-time has gone up. So this will cover those changes.
Do I have a motion?
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Doty, do I have a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Huntsman, thank you, sir. Any questions?
Is there any, go ahead.
Yeah. I've got a question.
Mr. Richardson?
The electricity cost went way up on this one and way down on the other one. Is that an anomaly or just?
I investigating that as to why Cherokee Parks has gone up so much this year over what we budgeted.
Right.
I don't know the answer to that right
And,
now.
and the other one went way down over what we
And
budgeted.
that is the line that's for all of our.
Everybody, all the satellites and, okay, all right.
I'll
Thank
try
you.
to look into that.
That's all I have. Thank you.
We have the lights on. Any other questions? Okay, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? So carried. Item 5I-12, Fund 101, Planning, $2,025.
So this amendment covers additional medical insurance expense. One employee changed coverage during the middle of the year. And then the planning department has some new hotspots that they are using for their staff. So the communication line will need extra funds added to it, as well as just $100 for gasoline.
I have a motion.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Doty, second, Mr. Cutshaw. Any questions? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? So carried. Item 5I-13, Fund 101, Property Assessor's Office, $600.
This amendment, we're moving $600 from the deputy line in the property assessor's office to cover excess cost of gasoline.
I have a motion.
So moved.
Mr. Harville, second.
Second.
Mr. Doty, any questions? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? So moved. Item 5I-14, Fund 101, Sheriff's Department, $6,300.
This amendment moves $6,300 from the sheriff's gasoline line. It's actually doing better than anticipated to cover some increased personnel lines as well as towing costs.
Need a motion?
Make a motion.
Second.
Mr. Long, second, Mr. Reed. Any questions? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? So moved. Item 5I-15, Fund 101, Sheriff's Department, $7,089.
So each year, the narcotics officers receive a salary supplement that the drug fund pays the general fund back for. And that's what this amendment takes into consideration, that reimbursement, and reappropriates these reimbursement amounts back into the expense lines that they were paid out of on the salary lines.
Have a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Mr. Cutshaw, do I have a second?
Second.
Mr. Doty, thank you. Any questions? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? So moved. Item 5I-16, Fund 101, various payroll adjustments, $8,180.
These payroll adjustments are for data processing or IT, and then general sessions too. There was some salary lines that were under budgeted, and there are not enough funds within their other lines to cover it, so we are having to take this amount out of fund balance.
Do I have a motion?
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Doty, do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Richardson. Any questions? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? So carried. Oh, that's okay. Item 5J, contract with Know Your Space for Health Department project. Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Chairman, this is, I was approached by the architect for the health department project saying, we don't have plans for the building. We don't have construction plans or as-built plans, so it's hard for them to take what they have and start the design process, but because we don't have any lines on paper and don't know what's there. And so what the architect has proposed is that we hire a company called Know Your Space. He approached 3 companies and got no response from one and responses from 2. And Know Your Space had the low. And what they'll do is they'll survey the building. They will measure it, of course, give explanations on what it's built out of, how tall the ceilings are, where the utilities come in and out of the building, what kind of utilities, the heat and air, the electrical, the water, sewer, all that, and put it on paper and well, not really put it on paper, it'll be in a computer file, but and give the architect the tools that he needs to get started on the design. The cost of this service is $20,000. I'll have a contract later this week. The architect was out of the office today to attend a funeral, so I couldn't get it from him today. So we will have that later this week, but the company is Know Your Space, and the architect is asking for these services to be done. Now, one question I do have, which I don't know, is this included in the fee that we've approved for his office? I don't know that. My gut feeling is it's in addition to their fee, and that it would be reimbursed by the grant that we get from the health department.
To have a motion?
So moved.
Mr. Richardson, do I have a second?
Second.
Mr. Long, thank you. All in favor? Oh, excuse me. Any questions?
You said it would be reimbursed by the grant, right?
Yes. It would be one of the expenses we would submit for reimbursement.
Any other questions? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That is moved. Item 5K, confirmation of amendment to Road Commission Private Act.
Mr. Chairman, over the weekend, we received in the mail from the Secretary of State's office the public chapter for the passage of the amendment to the Private Act for the Road Commission that sets a minimum for their compensation and allows the county commission to set the salaries of the planning commissioners. And so this is a committee vote today, but I would ask that you recommend this for passage to the county commission. But then at the county commission meeting next week, there has to be 2/3 majority for it to pass. So that's what this is.
Do I have a motion?
I make a motion.
Mr. Long, do I have a second? Mr. Richardson, thank you. Any questions? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? So moved. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Is that enough?
That's enough.
Thank you, Chairman Hong. Of the Finance Committee, we'll now move into Public Services Committee. Chairman Richardson, you are recognized.
Thank you, sir. Call the Public Services Committee to order. Any visitors wishing to address the committee tonight? Seeing none, go to item 3, old business. We have none. Item 4, new business, noise issue information update only. We've had input from the Sheriff's Department. We have sent the a rough draft of sorts off to the court system. They're reviewing that as far as what can be enforceable. what is previous case law, what other counties are doing, those kind of things, and we have not received that back. So we're still waiting on this. It touches a lot of different areas, so we want to be real careful about what we, throw out there for proposals. Any questions from anybody? I've got one other comment to make. This has nothing to do with the sheriff's department, but in the old days, somebody would ring up Sarah and they'd get Andy or Barney, and there'd be a goat running through the loaded goat going through, and Andy and Barney would take care of it. And that's kind of evolved into a 911 emergency management system. The dogs came into the courthouse. Andy and Barney would take care of it, and that has kind of evolved into Humane Society. They had couples that were raising all kinds of cane and causing issues with noise, and Andy and Barney would take care of it, and that's turned into a noise ordinance now. So I personally think that we should be careful about what we enforce, or what we propose. I don't want to add another layer to government that's not necessary, that could be solved by something more simple. And again, we're waiting on the court system to come back to tell us what the simplest way to solve this problem is. So that's, I watch too much TV. So, any other comments or questions?
Yes. Mr. Chairman, we're asking for being civil, being neighborly, being, being neighborly. We don't want, it's, and I've heard people say, well, now that's exactly why I moved out to the county, because the rules are different than in the city. But being a good neighbor means Bill and I have to fix the fence on Sunday, whether we want to or not, keep the cows in, or whatever it takes to, and if that means at 11 o'clock you better wind down, then, that, to me, it's just a civility, neighborly action. And but it has evolved to all those things you said, and I'd like to think we could get back to, when I was growing up, it was a school night. This is school night, so this kind of behavior, there was no TV. We could only watch TV on the weekends. So things like that, it's compromise to be civil, I guess is my point. Thank you.
Thank you. Any comments? Anybody else?
Mr. Chairman.
I don't think that me and Ms. Howell will see those days again.
No. Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
you was talking about things that changed. Why can we not take in what Ms. Howell said one step further? Why cannot that owner be a good neighbor?
Exactly.
And reduce the noise? We had a commissioner in here not too long ago, and I'm talking about Mr. Neesmith, that said he set the limit, what time that noise level would go down. Now, that's just good business. That's not just good neighborly, that's good business. And I wonder why, out of respect for his neighbors, that the gentleman doesn't do that. Now, you get along a lot better if you're in business, getting along with your neighbors, than what you do if you don't.
I agree.
Chairman, I need to add, he doesn't live here, so.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We,
Not from here.
true. Would y'all like to add anything?
No, we just gotta watch what we pass, because once we pass something, it's gonna be countywide. We need to address the issue at hand. That's correct.
Correct.
I'd like to add, Chairman, if what Commissioner Green is saying. We're all on the same page. We'd like to see something done. We just have to be careful and I'm looking forward to hearing what the court system comes back with, of what they recommend that we do, of what they feel is enforceable. Just asking a neighbor to turn their music down doesn't always work. We've got to have something behind it, and if we don't have the court system and the judicial system, whatever, to back us up, we're spinning our wheels.
Thank you.
And it's just not simple, because the noise could be going on at 8 o'clock
Yes.
and aggravating people whenever, if we had something like 11 o'clock. You know, it's a
I agree.
delicate situation to deal
When we
with.
first started down this road, I felt like it would be a simple answer. We had one thing to deal with, but the more deeper we dig, it's more complicated. It seems like it would be simple, but Commissioner Richardson has done extensive work in trying to get this figured out, along with Sheriff's Department, some ideas that came from them. And I applaud him for his effort in what he's doing in trying to get something adjudicated. So we're looking forward to those return information.
Thank you. Any other comments, questions? If not, that's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Chairman Richardson. And now we will move directly into our Bulk Waste Study Committee. Chairman Horner, you are recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll call the Bulk Waste Study Committee to order. If there's anyone who wishes to address this committee, may do so at this time. Seeing none, there is no old business. New business, identifying bulk waste and brush definitions. At our last meeting, we voted to table this and look for, I guess, some more answers or definitions for this. I put one of these on everybody's desk, and I got this from Barry Poole last week, and it was some instructions and collection policies. And if you look at the top, it says 2005 on here. So these were enacted and probably accepted by the commission in 2005. And somewhere along the way, we've dropped the ball. And so, and we've got to start somewhere. And I think by identifying the bulk waste, and it's in your packet, what bulk waste is. Such terms shall mean furniture, bedding, appliances, water tanks, and other refuge items that by their size, shape, or weight cannot be placed in a county-provided container. Now, when we got these county containers, and correct me if I'm wrong, if it wouldn't go in the container, we weren't going to pick it up. And that was not 2005. I'm assuming that was 2005. So it's morphed into, I don't know one of you that don't have trash issues in your district. Ditch lines filling up, cans filling up, whatever they throw out. And this has become a hardship on us as a county, and it's a hardship on the garage, the garbage people. We can't even, I'm saying the garbage we can get on a schedule, but the other stuff, the bulk waste, the brush and all that, there's so much out there. And when you mix it, it all goes in the landfill when we could be burning the brush. So I felt like, and I've talked to several of you that are on this committee, to define what it is and the definition of bulk waste, and then what brush is. And any time you guys want to chime in back there, you're welcome to. But I think at some point we've got to start something. And so I would like to present this definition of bulk waste and move on it so we can move forward with our rules. Just telling them they can't put it out there doesn't, what can't we put out there? Then the education is going to have to come.
Oh, my gosh.
And it's you know, this issue, as I said last meeting, didn't happen overnight, and it's not going to be fixed overnight. So we're gonna have to decide what ways we wanna educate. When do we wanna start this, implement? You know, I know we're gonna have to give them some headway. But I would like to start by just defining what bulk waste is. Hang on.
I like that paragraph, but it, well, let's suppose somebody's got their garbage in their garbage container and they had the new water tank, or new hot water tank, It's not gonna fit, as long as we, newspaper, radio, school, everything, and say, that's okay because you can take it, blah, blah, blah. Or you can call this number and they'll get it. I don't know, but I think you said that the city, or the solid waste, if something like that comes right now, they take it to LML Metals and.
Well, I think they collect it at the back of there. What I'm saying is, I'm not saying we're not gonna pick up bulk waste, but it just has to be bulk waste.
Yeah.
Because people are putting trash in with it too.
Right.
And other things, so, and if it's not separated, we don't pick it up.
Yeah, yeah. I agree.
And there's other issues that's gonna come with the property maintenance. We got audited, T-deck, fines come because there's trash in the ditch lines.
Storm drain.
And those So, and those fines start at $3,000. They said could start at $3,000, and I said, well, that's a lot. And they said, that's per day. That the county could be fined, because it's not us, it's state, federal.
Now I see.
And so that's been going on. I guess we're lucky we hadn't been hammered with it so far. But I would like to see approve what these are, what bulk waste is, and what brush is. If there's any comments, I'm all ears.
I've got a question, Mr. Chairman. I'm not on the committee, but
Yes, sir.
this packet that was approved in '05 has differentiated sizes for the brush, listing trunk sizes of less than 12 inches and above 12 inches, but the identifying bulk waste and brush only gives the one dimension. Are we going to try to go away from this completely?
Well, this was just handed to me, so, I mean, we can tweak whatever we want to tweak on
I
it.
was just curious on that fact because it does, this one actually lists up to a 3-foot diameter trunk. And that's pretty massive.
It sure is.
What do y'all recommend? You're the ones picking it up, and
Newer trucks will pick up more, they have different capabilities.
Excuse me, Barry, I'm sorry, but could you please, for our recording?
The newer brush trucks pick up a little bit better than the others, so, I'd say if it's 3-foot diameter trunk, then we should limit it to a 5-foot length. That we should be able to handle that type weight with no problem. I'm not trying to split hairs here, but that's a reasonable piece of tree right there for us to deal with. So, and we sometimes we go back and ask those people that have put that there to cut it up, and they have done that. And then sometimes they leave it laying there as long as you want to look at it. It's laid there for 6 months, and we finally get a call from 3 or 4 neighbors that say, can y'all get this? I mean, it's been laying there forever, and, the circumstances change and are different. We got bicycles that have been poked down into garbage carts, paint cans with paint in them, poked down in the garbage cart. I'm sure y'all rode down the street before and seen a big old line, a big old stream of paint down the road. What are we going to do with those people that do that if we can find out who done it? And I think that's what you're saying. I mean, that's where we're headed with this. we gotta find some way to get some controls on the situation. So, in terms of those sizes, if they look good to y'all, then that's what we were thinking that in 2005 on that type thing. So if we need to add to them, we could do that.
I was just curious because of the, only the one size listed here versus what was in this policy. But to me, a 3-foot diameter, tree trunk, and this list for 6 feet long, and, for lack of a better, I'd like to go to the only expert in here on that, Sheriff Mullins. A 3-foot diameter tree trunk that's 6 feet long.
About several thousand pounds.
Yeah. Those who don't know, Sheriff Mullins had a tree trimming business for years prior to this, while I went to him. It's, I think it's a little much for us to put in one. I mean,
Yeah.
I understand people need to get rid of, but that's not brush to me. That's dropping a tree. A big tree at that.
But
Mr. Poole, your drivers, if they go to a spot and they know a contractor has brought all this stuff out, do they contact you, or do they just go ahead and pick it up, or? I'll give you, for instance, it's on my road in my district that it just happened. The bad thing is they took all the concrete slab out, didn't have enough decency to put it on their property. They took it across the road and put it on a neighbor's vacant lot. And it's concrete slab and a tree where the contractor has taken down.
Yeah.
I personally don't think we should pick that up. If I was that neighbor, I'd probably push it back across the road. But, I mean, is there anything your drivers, do they radio you, or?
If we could catch somebody in the act, we won't pick it up. But, you know, we gotta see it. We don't see that much. Now, our drivers say, I know that was trimmed by a tree trimmer. And they're probably right, but if you don't catch them in the act and to try to penalize them or whatever, deal with them in some way, they say, well, I don't know what you're talking about. I mean, it's your word against theirs, and we don't want to be out there.
These people can't deny this.
What do you do with that? And, I mean, who's seen them? Can you rely on that testimony? Can you go to court with that kind of testimony? I mean, if we're pushing it to that, you know, that limit, that's the kind of things we need to deal with.
Chairman, Ms. Howell, go ahead.
no, sir, go ahead.
I'm just saying, you know, it's like Chairman Horner has said, this is gonna be a work in progress. We're gonna have to start somewhere and begin our education process. And as our drivers run across these, I mean, you know, you're gonna get us a time or two.
Yeah.
It's gonna happen. Like you
Already
said,
been there,
yeah, exactly. We've already been there. But, you know, it's a point of, we want to keep this service, and to do so, we're going to have to clean it up and start somewhere. So, I mean, maybe we pick these trees up until we get them educated, or, you know, piece by piece. I don't know how else to say that. Also, I've got to add to that, if we separate bulk waste and trim, or brush, does that mean we're going to have two separate runs? You know, or is the guy going to go through the neighborhood and pick up bulk waste, and once he's done, he'll go back and pick up the brush later in that route or something?
Well, keeping the brush and the shrub and tree trimmings pure so they can be burnt is
right.
And if you just designate one truck to get that and the other trucks get the bulk items, then it'll work out okay.
Okay.
But we were talking about, I think, just trying to make a schedule for brush, for tree and shrub trimmings, instead of trying to make a schedule for bulk items till we get get control of it. We may be able to commit to every other week, or on, say, recycling day like the city does, for brush, for tree and shrub trimmings now. That quantity out there, that frequency of collection out there now, we may be able to do that.
Mhm.
We'll never know until we Let's try it.
Give it a
If you
try.
want us to, if you want us to run a trial for a couple of months or 3 months, then we could designate a truck or some trucks to just collect nothing but brush and see how that goes. See how often we could be back at the same place.
The thing too is not to put trash with the brush,
Right.
because we can burn the brush and it doesn't go in the landfill. But if there's trash in it, then it all goes into the landfill.
Right.
Chairman,
Not only we tossed this about, we made our trip last week and very informative, but the bulk pickup, I think has to come to an end. I'm just speaking from myself, the brush pickup, fine. If it's a residential job and the homeowner goes out and cuts down a tree, piles it at the road, we pick up the brush. But the bulk, I'm totally against that. I think it's run us ragged. I think it's been absolutely abused. When you say bulk, that means everything. Construction materials, tear a metal building down and pile it up out there. Tell me that's not bulk. Well, I just think bulk ought to be gone. We don't handle bulk, we do the brush, we do the household garbage, we do the recycle, and the bulk is up to you. You have to load it up in the back of a truck or get a neighbor or someone to come and haul it off to the landfill. I just think we've got to get past, and get back the way it was, because it's getting very, very expensive. It's costing us a ton of money with our trucks, and I just don't think it's physically feasible to be able to do this. It wasn't intended to be done like this. And I just think that we need to get away from bulk waste, let the individual homeowners deal with that. And we do brush, recycle, and household refuge.
How often do you think you're gonna find it on the side of the road? Let's just say we transitioned into 6 months from now, we're not picking up any bulk items. How many occasions you think you find it on the side of the road and nobody knows where it comes from?
But
No, I'm sure that will happen. I have no doubt that will happen, but I think for the most part, you're always gonna have those people. We have people I caught a guy not too many months back on the corner of Panther Creek Road and Merle Road. He had backed up there and he was unloading stuff, and I stopped and looked at him. He had out of key with Jefferson County tags on his little truck. And I stopped and talked to him. And I said, why do you think you have the right? And it was bulk, old this and old that. And I said, why do you have a right to come into Hamblen County, number one, and dump your trash here at the side of the road on a state highway going into a state park of all things? Where do you get that right? I mean, why do you think? I said, I'm being serious. I'm not angry. I'd just like to know. And he said, that's what I've been told. They won't pick it up down there where I'm at, so I just drive it up here. And I'm thinking, you're in your truck, you've got it loaded. I don't know where you live. Probably sounds like Talbot or somewhere. And I know going out 92 is a long haul, but you're already heading out. Go dump it in your end of the county like you're supposed to. And I know some people take advantage of that, but that doesn't mean just because there's going to be people do it wrong that we ought to make it easy for them.
Well, if I may, the recycle day where you bring your battery and you bring your paint and you bring your chemicals, that is very successful. And how do we know about it is because people read it in the newspaper, they hear it on the radio. So I think before we get to the 6 months, we have to have 6 months of guess what we're going to do starting in September. Where we say this is not going to happen. And the awakening for me was when I'm in the house doing the dishes and I step out and get the mail and there's the letter that says, oh my goodness, you're gonna be fined $1,000 if, and I thought, well, I didn't even know there was, the guy dumping the wheelbarrows, at the rental unit right there. And so jumped in the car and said, look, it's not gonna be my $1,000, it's gonna be, and he said, don't worry, Miss Howell, I've hired somebody to, and that's what we need. It is, you know, yes, it is your responsibility. And maybe that means if it's on a corner lot, the 5 houses on this corner get that letter until somebody says, I know who did it. You know, we've just got to find a way, but I believe that we've got to inform them that it ain't gonna happen. From this day, starting September 1, it better be twigs and branches, and it better be, you know, your grandson picked them up and put them there, and not a tree cutting business. You know, and same thing, here's our paint day, here's our water heater, I don't know, appliance day or appliance spot, but you were gonna go further on that with centers.
Yeah.
I'd like to propose an idea. Chairman Holm brought up something that he's advocating that we do away with bulk waste. Barry Poole has advocated just now that doing so could create other problems. Is there not an in-between where we could ease into this policy instead of abruptly ending bulk waste pickup? And my proposal or my thought is, could we investigate these convenience centers and let the people get used to the idea as we work toward that? Let them know we're working toward this, brush pickup or something, instead of abruptly, because I fear that we would cause more issues in our county by illegal dumps and what have you. That's an idea to throw around, and I know we're off base as far as what we're supposed to be doing.
No, go ahead.
Well, the convenience centers, I think, is fine if you had one on the east end and west end, but I think those convenience centers have to be away from residential areas.
Yeah.
Yeah,
They
yeah.
have to be in, like an industrial park or somewhere I could deal with that, but I wouldn't want to put one somewhere, maybe a development's coming in and,
Right.
you know.
If I could add to that, we have 3 industrial parks in our county currently, and other opportunities to look around for some vacant land within those parks, and that'd be a good place to start for that.
We looked at those convenience centers and there was no smell. I mean, they were nice. I mean, they were well maintained, they were orderly, there was no trash floating around, no smell, they had compactors. We went to 2 of them in Knox County, and both of them were very impressive. You know, unlike the gravelled, chain-linked in lot with some dumpsters in there that was what came to my mind. And these down there, I mean, one of them had cobblestone, nice building. You know, it wasn't just a little hutch, it was a nice building, and everything was paved and curbed and trees growing, and they had a place for everything and everything in its place, and they had, I mean, it was very, to me, I mean, it doesn't take much to impress me, I suppose, but it was pretty impressive to me. I was.
And the difference there, I think, would be that we have curbside pickup.
Right.
We really don't want your house garbage in that drop-off center. We want bulk waste there.
Right.
You put your garbage out at the road.
Exactly.
You know, of course, where you was at, they were bringing household garbage in.
And that was their well, I take that back. They had a private collection company that you could get, or you just dropped it by there. And the one guy that I knew just happened to drive up at that time. I talked to him, and Wayne Nichols, you know Wayne, he had moved down there near Carter, and he said it's great. He said, you know, we don't, He said, you know, we thought about having, you know, having our garbage picked up, but it's real convenient where he lives, but he said the bulk is just run it down there and throw it off. So
They were lined up like pals getting in there.
they were very orderly.
People-
I mean,
people
it wasn't what I was expecting when we left here. I'll be honest with you. I was impressed with it.
Well, there are permits being obtained for construction, you know, down to planning commission. So we should be able to follow that. You know, whoever's got a permit, we can make sure, if somebody could, that they're doing what they should be with their waste. Now, we've got some fly-by-night businesses where guys, women are contracted, they go to do his job, they put it on their trailer, they bring it back to their house, they put it at the road. So we can tell the people that are doing that because it's just there a lot or all the time. So we need some way to deal with them too, because they don't have permits. People just hired them to do the jobs, and it's not a formal process that's being followed, or an official process that's being followed. We can identify who's doing that pretty easily. We need some way to deal with that as well.
I would say if we wanted to back off, as you said, on the bulk waste a little bit, but stop construction waste,
True.
Yeah.
period.
Well, the normal person uses this service, you know, once a month, even less. So the habitual process of having something at the road, something's going on. And I think we should deal with that. That'll eliminate a lot for us.
You get in their pocketbook, then
Right.
Yeah.
Just think, no bulk. You've got something, you got a water heater you need to take, you take it to the landfill.
Barry, could you reiterate that? So you're advocating possibly not to pick up, or the habitual offenders of construction waste to start with?
Or anything.
any construction.
It can be different materials. We got down on Shills Ferry Road, in Mike's area, guys bringing brush in by the trailer load. And, you know, he goes and does the tree trimming and that type of thing, brings it down there and puts it out. And you can't hardly get vehicles through there. So it's not only construction.
Habitual offenders.
Yeah.
They're on the tree trimming, and I've done that for 23 years. On a lot of them, like Mr. Long said, you can tell if it's done by the homeowner, if it's done by people with machinery and stuff. I think if it's laying there, if you talk to the people, the homeowner, and ask them who cut this tree, most of them's gonna tell you the truth.
Most of them will. But a lot of them won't answer the door either. You know, the thing I want to protect on that issue is there's an elderly person, man or woman, they're not capable of trimming their tree, but they need to get their tree trimmed. And then, you know, they're on a fixed income, they want to put it at the road. You know, I don't have the heart to tell them I can't collect that. So a hardship case, you know, that's good. That's going to be. None of my drivers want to tell somebody they're not going to get it when you're looking at those circumstances. So I'd like to be able to deal with that some way, some policy that will deal with that.
Well, when we had a tree fall down in the yard, and we had hauled it out to the side of the road, and the city guy, when he was out there, he said, Miss Howell, I need this thing, the long limb, like from, you know, cut in half. And I said, okay, I just need to know how to have it out there. And again, it just goes back to, you know, to education. You know, this is what, and the young man or whoever had helped that lady, you know, once we say, look, it's got to be, you know, no bigger than my leg and 5 feet, then that's what it's got to be. And then now you can put it out there, and the brush truck will get it as long as nothing else is with it. And to me, it just begins with education high doses of it, frequent.
And that's what I was getting at with the 3-foot diameter, with the weight of it, you're gonna have to have machinery to move that. I mean, you're not gonna roll that. Once it stops, you're not gonna get started again.
No.
So I think that goes way over. I like this myself for the 8 inches, as Ms. Howe said, no bigger than your leg, and it just, we went too big.
Yeah, well, we were,
As Pap used to say, we got too big for our britches.
Well, it's evolved into what it is right now because of different circumstances. And it's all out of an intent to serve, an intent to clean the county up. If we hadn't had our brush trucks running like we have, this county would look a lot worse. So we'll be glad for y'all to help us clean it up.
Chairman, let's get back to the order of the day and try to identify how you'd like to proceed on this.
Well, we can always tweak it
Yes, sir.
moving forward, but I would like to see something that we can start with, so we can start educating. So it would be my suggestion to start with the enforcement of the construction waste and not pick any of it.
and the tree trimming.
And contractor waste.
Contractor waste, yeah.
Okay, may I speak? Could we tweak that into, I'm listening to what he's saying as far as habitual offenders. Do we, and also the hardship cases. I'm just trying to find the middle ground here of keeping our county clean as we educate. Do we cut off total enforcement, or do we allow the drivers some leeway as to this is a habitual offender and then we need to address that? Or is it entirely all construction waste? I mean, it's for debate, guys.
Well, on the one you handed out, Mr. Horner, it's also not included waste generated on a commercial property or when you're tearing down a house. And why can't we tell wherever they get their permit, all right, you're gonna be the guy to tear down the house. By the way, you have to go get a bin and put all the stuff in it. Why can't we say that's gonna be business from here on? You know, that you have to have a bin, and then we send a notice to all the tree trimming guys that you have to, you're responsible for it, not the county. And you have to swing it by the dump. I mean, that to me is a starting point. The house flipping, the deconstruction of a house, all of that, the builder is, the tear downer is the.
Well, you have renters too, when they move out and leave everything.
Oh, my goodness.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
That's actually in here. It says landlords, renters must be responsible for disposing of materials left behind by those who have been evicted or ended the rental contract.
There you go.
That's in there. You know, all you have to do is add the house flippers that are the biggest problem, and you've got that covered.
Yep.
How do you deal with the offenders then?
Shoot.
One of those scary letters.
And how do you deal with them if they're not scared?
I think you do that through the planning commission when you refuse to authorize a construction permit.
Yeah.
Yep.
Till you clean it up and follow the rules.
Stop construction till you clean it up?
Well, you don't issue another permit to them because of what they done at the last site. Like you got these house flippers that are just going from house to house and they're putting it all out the road. Next time they come for a permit, say, hey, you're not gonna get one.
Until you pay the fine on the last one that you
Exactly.
left us that we had to clean up.
You gotta have some teeth in it.
You can have some feedback.
There you go.
We can sit here and talk about it all we want to. If we don't put some teeth in it, it won't work.
I totally agree.
Tommy, or codes enforcement, you know, he's getting kind of frustrated. He goes out and tells them, and then they don't do it, and then, you know, nothing happens. So we're gonna have to follow up on that end too. I like what you said, and if you wanna make that a motion, that'll give us a place to start.
Forgot what I said.
But it was good.
It just covered everything. It was,
Yeah, well, as
Adding-
it said in this, it says landlords, renters, and.
adding flippers in there.
And adding flippers in that will not be, are responsible for disposing of their materials left behind by those who have been evicted or ended the rental contract, and any other materials that they may have to be cleaning out of those places. I'd put that in the form of a motion.
Have a motion on the floor. I hear a second.
Second.
Have a second. All in favor?
Discussion. Discussion.
Discussion, sorry.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I don't know if the law is still there, but several years ago, if a landlord evicted, it had to go to the road. So you might need to ask your attorney if that law has changed before you go that route.
If it had to go to the road?
Years ago, when little brother was over several houses, it was in the law at that point that if he evicted someone, it had to go to the road. Now, I'm not saying it's still there, but years ago it was there. That's what we've got our attorney for, we need to check it.
That's only a repossession.
Can you put a dollar ship on there?
That's only in a repossession, you say?
Writ of possession.
Let's back up real quick. Ms. Howe happens to not be on our bulk waste committee. We'll need a
Heck.
second on that.
I'll say.
Commissioner Long is second. Sorry, Ms. Peggy.
That's all right.
Good idea.
Who notifies them of their offense?
The
Code enforcement.
code enforcement, and then it should come out of the attorney's office. County attorney's office. If it goes to that point.
I think you should add that to your motion.
I'll stipulate that.
So we change the amendment.
Is everybody good with the amendment? Or-
Tell me what you're putting there.
Yeah. Let's,
Make sure what I say.
That the offending party would be contacted by the codes enforcement officer, and any further follow-up would come from the county attorney.
I'll second.
I have one other idea. The word flipper was used. Do we want to use that word? Do we want to use remodel?
Remodelers.
I know we all understand the
what a
term
flipper
flipper,
is.
but
Yeah, and that's the hot terminology nowadays, but, you know, I don't know what you call them other than that, remodelers or.
remodel is probably more inclusive.
Entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
That's because that's what they are.
But one question, you can get into remodeler and not be the owner of that property. Remodeler doesn't have to be the owner, so who's responsible then? Is it the owner? Or does it go back to the remodeler?
We'll do it after this one.
You still can't send it.
That'll be whoever's doing the work.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, if you've got a handyman that comes in and does the work, he's responsible for getting rid of the stuff, not us.
Right, but if he leaves it on your property, you're responsible for your property, you let him leave it there. You know what I'm saying? If I hire somebody to come and cut my trees, and my trees are, and he leaves them at the road at my house, and then he goes on, who gets the fine?
The owner.
Well,
The
Property
homeowner.
Property owner.
Yeah, the property owner, because you're responsible for your dog, you're responsible for your house, that's your responsibility.
I get that, but I think what, you know, it just comes back to the education part, like Ms. Al's talking about, of if I'm a homeowner, I ought to know that I can't do that I can't hire a service and say, I'll just stick it out there, they'll
Right,
get it.
Right.
No, that's not the way that works.
Mayor.
Chairman, just so that we're moving forward on solid ground, I would suggest on some of these legal issues, like who's responsible, how much is the fine, and that kind of thing. We get an opinion from the county attorney.
Sure.
And based policy off of the information.
before we
whatever you
vote.
do, and it is, just like what you said, there has to be fire, or who you want to find. So you need to be on solid ground. I'll be happy to, if some of you would give me your legal, what you think are legal questions, I'll be happy to.
So we table it again?
It might be the proper thing to do, Chairman, I mean, we've got some really good ideas moving forward here, but if we can fine tune this to present maybe for passage and have some legal background and know what our fines could be, who's going to enforce, have all those questions answered with detail, or best we can.
I'm willing to withdraw my motion.
Well, I don't know that we want to withdraw.
Withdraw it, we just
Let's
table it.
let's
All right.
table it for,
Motion table?
I have a question. We're talking about the cost, well, we're talking about the convenience centers, and there's going to be a cost associated with that. Do we have any idea what the cost is to operate the brush truck, the bulk truck now? So when we start looking down the road, we've got something we can compare to. I mean, you don't have to answer that tonight, but there needs to be some baseline that we look at.
Average fuel cost, we could say.
Truck, fuel,
Maintenance and
personnel.
repair on our.
Right.
Yeah,
I mean, it can be a general number, but,
we can get that.
And Mr. Richardson, this could be a place for the displaced workers you were talking about, Mr. Christensen, for the back of the truck. This could be places for those employees.
Mr. Chairman, I'd also like to have Mr. Poole look into getting us a schedule of maybe what you was talking about when you start backing off on the brush pickup. If, you know, what that might look like if we, 6 months down the road, you decide to, you know, just have certain days for brush pickup, and could you do that, or?
savings could be
Trying to
associated with
think while
that.
you were saying that, if we dedicated a truck on the east and a truck on the west, and just let them pick up nothing but tree and shrub trimmings for a couple of months and see how that goes, and then that way we'll have a little better education about if we could go to a schedule.
And the cost.
I don't think there's any legal thing about that, is there, Mayor? I don't think it'd be anything.
Would your drivers, the garbage drivers, let you know that, hey, there's a pile down in so-and-so, and there's a,
Well, if we had two-way radios, we used to have radios in our trucks, and everybody's gone to cell phones, and we don't have it now.
yeah.
There's no communication other than they could make some notes, try to stop and make some notes on something, and then put them together at the end of the day.
so as all minds clear, I'm just jumping in here to, the motion that we've had. Everybody understand?
Table it.
Table. We have a motion to table this motion.
Second, you second it. Did you second?
Rodney?
Rodney second. Yes.
Rodney second. Stan made the motion to table his motion.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
So Chairman, would you follow up on that with the mayor, get some legal advice?
Sure will. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman Horner. We will call to order now our County and Rules Committee. Chairman Doty, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Do we have any visitors wishing to address the Calendar and Rules Committee? Seeing none, we'll move forward. With old business, we have none. Item 4A, review of the regular calendar items. And we have additions of, under finance, item 9I, which is budget amendments. This will be number 17, which is for the garbage truck with the automated arm and the 5-year warranty. Item 18, item 19, and item 20 will be the budget amendments for the different for the departments to cover the insurance. And then we have item J, which will be for the Know Your Space grant for $20,000. And item K for the Road Commissioner Private Act. And then with no movement on items from item 10, or section 10, which for the Bulk Waste Study Committee will be removing that from votes. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Ms. Ahern, do I have a second?
Second.
Ms. Howell, seconded. Is there any discussion?
What did you say the Know Your Space grant was? Did you say 20?
$20,000.
Okay, I thought I'd written down 20,000, okay.
Is there no discussion? All those in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous, motion passes. We have the review of the consent calendar items. Do I have a motion to approve?
Motion.
Mr. Horner, move to approve. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second from Ms. Howe and Mr. Huntsman, so I appreciate both. Do we have any discussion on those items? Hearing none, all those in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes, and that's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Chairman Doty. That concludes our business tonight. Commissioners, please leave your notebooks, if you will, at your desk. You already have before you our May schedule for budget meetings and our regular scheduled items in May. Please take note of that. Anything else, Trish, that we need? Yes, Mayor.
Just want to remind you about the citizen survey.
That's true.
If you haven't completed one, or someone in your house hasn't completed one, if you haven't done that, you can go on the county website. There's a link on the county website to get that done. Please promote that. This is the last week. We're entering today. We were just shy of 300 responses.
Thank you, Mayor. All minds clear?
You come out there and amaze me.
Adjourned.